gathered mothballs in the back of the wardrobe. When I went to get it this morning, it was not there, no worries. So, to impress you, I pulled out my tuxedo trousers. That was the best I had. They haven't been worn for quite a long time either, so here we go. I don't know whether your brain kicks the same way mine does, but I'm always thinking about things differently to most people. So I always try and fathom the depths of mysteries. So, and the best one of all is Genesis 1:1, which is, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. If you say it quickly, it doesn't really mean a lot. But if you say it slowly and you focus on the words, there are some real hidden gems, and you could sit around and debate those words for days, if not months. And the key words there, to me anyway, are in the beginning. The beginning of what? The beginning was when. There's so many themes that go around that. And the next one was God created. Not it just evolved, God created. The heavens and the earth. Which heavens? The solar system, the galaxy, the universe, the multiverse, the whole spectrum of things. So today I thought I'd focus on a couple of things. So I titled this The Universe. I only titled it that because you seem to want to have a title to sermons. I didn't used to do that, I used to just talk. But I've also I'd be going away from my normal themes if I didn't mention some numbers. So I thought I'd give you a very short view of how important numbers are in Scripture. So numbers, you can sit here and talk about numbers all day. You can talk about colours, you can talk about textures, you can talk about a whole range of things that the Bible sort of signifies as being quite important. So let me start. Number one is the number of unity. It is, in Deuteronomy, it is, God is saying the Lord is one. In Ephesians it says there's one Lord, one faith and one baptism. Number two is the number of division. The Son has two natures, a human nature and a divine nature. There are two testaments in the Bible. There is, man is made up of man and woman. There are two types of people, sheep and goats. There are two ages. Anyone who speaks a word against the Son of Man will be forgiven, but anyone who speaks against the Spirit will not be forgiven, either in this age or in the age to come. And number three is the number of the divine perfection. The Trinity consists of the Father, Son and the Holy Ghost. There are three qualities of the universe: time, space and matter. Time comprises the past, the present and the future. Space comprises height, width and depth. Matter comprises solid, liquid and gas. So there are all three qualities have three elements, meaning we live in a trinity of trinities. Get that? We live in a trinity of trinities. Very good, I like that. Man comprises three parts: body, soul and spirit. The earth is the third planet from the sun. What's significant about that? We don't know yet. Man has three abilities: thought, word and deed. God has three attributes: omniscience, omnipresence and omnipotence. The Father spoke from heaven three times in the Bible. Matthew 3:17, Matthew 17:5, John 12:28. I won't read it. The number four is the number of creation. There are four directions: north, south, east and west. There are four seasons: summer, spring, winter and autumn. The fourth commandment is the first to mention the earth. The materials of the tabernacle were four. So number 5. 5 is the number of grace. David picked up 5 small stones to attack Goliath. The holy anointing oil comprises 5 parts. Israel came out of Egypt, which was the 5th in rank at the time. The number 6 is the number of man. Man was created on the 6th day. Man labours for 6 days. The 6th commandment is thou shalt not murder. But get this, 6 times 6 is 36. 36 plus 35 plus 34 plus all the other numbers counting down to 1 equals 666. 666 is the number of the Antichrist, therefore 666 is a mockery of the Trinity. Number 7. Number 7 is the number of spiritual perfection. 7 days in the week. Now this week, for the first time in ages, I heard someone talk about the metric week. I know what a metric week is? 10 days. And in many circles it makes sense. But there are 7 colours in the spectrum. There are 7 seals, 7 trumpets, 7 parables in Matthew, 7 promises to the churches. The number 8. 8 is the number of new beginnings. There was 8 people on Noah's Ark. Male babies are circumcised on the 8th day. There are 8 covenants with Abraham. Number 9. Number 9 is the number of judgment. 9 Greek words derived from the word judgment. Bottomless pit, ungodly, lightning, lasciviousness are all mentioned 9 times in the Bible. There were 9 gifts of the Spirit. The number 10 is the number of divine perfection. There are 10 commandments. Tithe is 10% of your income. There were 10 plagues. Jesus spoke 10 I ams. Number 12, the number of governmental perfection. There were 12 tribes of Israel. There were 12 apostles. There are 12 foundations in the heavenly Jerusalem. 12 gates, 12 pearls, 12 angels. The new Jerusalem measures 12,000 stadia cubed. 2,220 kilometres in a cube is the new Jerusalem. So it's going up as far as it is, that way and that way. Revelation 21:16 says in the second half, he measured the city and with the rod and found it to be 12,000 stadia in length and as wide and as high as it is long. With walls 144 cubits thick. Why do you want walls in the New Jerusalem? Do you know how far 144 cubits is? It's about 108 metres. Next number is the number 40. 40 is the number of probation and trial. Israelites wandered for 40 years. Moses was on the mount for 40 days. Jonah's message to Nineveh was destruction in 40 days. Jesus was tempted for 40 days. Anyway, that was just a little aside. What I've been pondering for months now is evolution. Where did it come from? You know, we all know that, but the reality today is that evolution is taught by everyone and is considered to be the truth. And no official will allow you to talk anything contrary to that. It's taught in the schools, it's taught everywhere. But what is it? What is the true definition of evolution? And I've got to tell you, the more I studied this, the more bewildered I got, because it just didn't make sense. So, the assumption also ignores the reality of God. So God has been totally removed from the theory of evolution. But it is still supported. So let me tell you the basic facts of evolution. The basic facts are 13.8 billion years ago, there was a concentrated area of matter of high density and temperature and it exploded. Okay, 13.8 billion years ago. Someone must have been there to write it down, otherwise I can't work out how they've got that far, but they did. Now, this is what Wikipedia says. After its initial expansion, an event that is by itself often called the Big Bang, the universe cooled sufficiently to allow the formation of subatomic particles and later atoms. Giant clouds of these primordial elements, mostly hydrogen with some helium and lithium, later coalesced through gravity, forming early stars and galaxies, the descendants of which are still visible today. Besides these primordial building materials, astronomers observed the gravitational effects of an unknown dark matter surrounding galaxies. Most of the gravitational potential in the universe seems to be in this form, and the Big Bang Theory and various observations indicate that this excess gravitational potential is not created by barotic matter such as normal atoms. Measurements of the redshifts of the supernova indicate that the expansion of the universe is accelerating, and observation attributed to dark energy's existence. Now, to me, that is very hard to fathom, yet this world believes it. It raises a whole heap of other questions too, and that, number one, is where did this dark matter come from? Where did this dense matter come from? What caused the explosion? And even evolution cannot assume that something came from nothing. But let's backpedal a bit. Let's compare this to modern economics and modelling, because modern economics, let me just explain this rather than read what I've written. When COVID first struck 2 years ago, the government came out and issued a decree that this is what we were going to do because this is what the modelling said we needed to do. One of those models, and the one closest to my heart, was that the banks collectively said, we're going to run out of money. Where are we going to get the money from to protect our loan book? Because people are going to pull their money out of the bank. And the models suggested the same thing. So the federal government went out and raised $93 billion and gave it to the banks. So the model said, we're going to run out of money, we've got a problem. What happened in reality was people cashed in their shares and cashed in their superannuation and put their money in the bank. So the exact opposite of the models happened. The flow-on effect of that and the flow-on effect of all this government stimulus has left us where we are today, which is with overinflated inflation and an economy that's absolutely rocketing and is going to come to a booming halt when this all runs out. So I suppose the point of this is not to get into a lecture on economics, but to prove to you that models created by man are not always right, and quite often are really, really wrong. And that's one of them. So let's just look at this evolution thing again, and let's just go forward in time. So if we assume that this universe is 13.8 billion years old, and that as time has progressed, all of this evolution has meant that we have progressed. Now, if the theory is correct, we will continue to progress. So where do we get to? So the next thing I just wanted to touch on was, what are we going to be like in 1,000 years' time? Assuming all the things, we survive that long, God doesn't come. So you've got to look at this as though God doesn't exist, because that's how they look at it. So if we let that assumption turn into reality and we go forward in time, this is what the National Geographic believes will happen in the next 1,000 years. Okay? By 1,000 years' time, we will be more machine than human. Computers will develop more progressively towards human, and humans will grow more progressively towards machine. Medical implants will make us less prone to disease and we will live longer. In the last 150 years, we have grown 100 millimetres taller, 4 inches, and added 20 years to the average age. In the future, we will be taller, thinner, and have darker skin and speak fewer languages. Abraham Lincoln was 6'4", the tallest American president ever, and he towered above everyone else. The average height back then was about 5'4", which would even make me tall. We will get brain implants in the future that will be able to download programs and download information. Now, any of you, not so much young people, but sort of 30s and 40s people, will remember the Matrix. In the Matrix, you used to be able to plug yourself in and you get the knowledge of everything in an instant. That's going to happen. There'll be no need to go to school anymore. Schools will be scrapped because you'll be able to download the information you need. The next smartphone to come out, and you can look it up on the internet, is a metal band that goes around your wrist and it shines a screen up like a virtual screen, and you can deal with it like that. Beyond that, there will be an implant in the back of your eye that will change your eyes so you'll be able to physically see inside your head all the screens. But just to show you, this is sort of evolving away from evolution for a minute. In 2014, researchers used the K computer in Japan, which at the time was the most powerful computer in the world, to simulate human brain activity. And it took 705,000 processors with 1.4 million gigabytes of RAM in 40 minutes to process the same amount of data processed by the brain in a second. Gene editing is next. So the body's made up of genes, as most people know. If they edit those genes, they can take away a lot of our faults. So number one, you become superhuman with strength beyond what you have now. Then there'll be genetic editing of embryos. Now that's an interesting one, because that means that you can pick your baby. You can decide what the baby's what it's going to look like, what its characteristics are going to be, and all those sorts of things. So you'll be able to create a baby's looks the way you want them to look. All defects, all faults will be eliminated. They will have the presence of what you want. So you'll be able to pick hair colour, eye colour, physical characteristics long before they're born. Computers will be more powerful. Moore's law, I don't know if it's Chris Moore, but it's Moore's law, says that computer power doubles every 2 years. At that rate, it will catch up to the human brain. Computers will develop like the human brain and be able to speak and think and remember, etc., etc., in either the form that we want. Robotic building materials, nanobits, are going to be able to build houses. You will just command them to build this structure. It will get built itself. And if you want it to send it, it'll do that. They're even talking about your house will be made of these nano bricks. When you go to work in the morning, you'll be able to disassemble it, and someone else will be able to come along and do their thing on your block of land, and you may take a business out of there while you're at work. That's really, this is 1,000 years' time. You will have nanobots in your brain. They will hold all your memories. So you'll be able to download your own memories, your own thoughts into that processor, and then bring them back when you need it. Space tourism will boom. Next big boom industry, space tourism. Then we won't live on Earth. As time progresses, we will live beyond the Earth, beyond the solar system, beyond this galaxy. So the next question is, what will man look like in 10,000 years' time? Beyond 1,000 years, it becomes more difficult to guess. Things will happen that haven't even been invented or thought of yet. What's the next thing past smartphones, past computers? Words we haven't even heard of. If you go back to when I was a kid, there was no such word as computer, there was no such word as smartphone. But today, the only smartphone we had was black, weighed a tonne and hung on the wall in the bedroom or in the lounge room. So we should have refined genetic editing techniques to allow our children to be born beautiful and healthy. This could remove a lot of the natural variation and defects, creating a world full of beautiful people that all look fairly similar. Beyond that, it will be it will be technically immoral to not give your children the right genes when they're born for their success. Digital code will be used to match couples, so you won't fall in love anymore. Love will be eliminated and replaced with contentment. Death will be rare, almost non-existent. Predators, famine, plague, warfare will all disappear. The supergiant star Antares will have exploded by this date and you'll be able to watch it from Earth. The oscillating tilt of the Earth, which was in place after the flood, will correct itself and the Sahara's climate will go back to a tropical one. Negative carbon technologies will be in place and they will suck the excess carbon out of the atmosphere so the world will go back to perfection. Food will be produced in a machine that changes the molecules from one state to another. So the atomic structure of a pear, they will think that this machine, and they're talking about it now, this machine will actually work out what the atomic structure is of a pear and literally take another object like a rock and change the molecular structure so that it produces a pear. You won't need to grow food anymore. The farms of the world will be reverted back to nature. Technological advances will be part of human nature. So, nanobits, whatever else, I don't know, but you will be more body parts, your body parts will be not necessarily all human anymore. Nanobits and other technical features will be part of the human body and enable to repair damage. Man can choose other forms instead of the image of God. You don't have to look like a human anymore. You'll be able to look like anything you want. You might want 6 arms instead of 2. All of that is technically possible. Human body parts will largely be replaced by engineered items. No need to eat in the conventional way. Energy provided by other means. Most organs will be superseded by new technology. So a human body won't need a stomach or a heart or anything else. You could be a technical machine. You can be a robot. Man will have settled. And humans will have much larger features like bigger eyes and bigger nostrils and bigger ears. So you see better, hear better. The speed of light will be attained and exceeded. Man will have settled outside the solar system. Einstein's theory that space can bend is proven and implemented, meaning you can travel from one side of the universe to the other in the blink of an eye. The wealth gap will have disappeared. We will have the ability to create things by word of mouth. We will become God. Now this is the evolutionary theory. I'm not telling you this is going to happen. I'm telling you that evolution says, paves a pathway to a God, which means that evolutionists believe in God. They have to believe in God. So evolution proposes that over time we become better and better and better. We eventually get to that point, so it's got to believe it. So, however, the journey described is a human one that ignores the reality of God and Satan that are along that journey. Humans are motivated by good and evil. Satan's ultimate plan is to rule. Any human act to the contrary ignores this, which is a fascinating separate subject. So the reality is that evolution ultimately finishes up on the same plane as God. Can't ignore it. And we know better than that. Evolution is just a myth created by Satan to a different means, but unfortunately it is so rampant that it is believed by everybody. Keep your eye on all of God's treasures to man. And this is another one, because you'll find that as time goes by, Satan is manipulating man to destroy God's treasures. So if you look in the Bible, you read all the things that God created as a treat and a gift to man, they are all being changed. You can now, and there's still more that can be changed, and they will be. So the Bible steps out the future progress of man, and it does not end well for the people that believe in evolution or the people that don't believe in God. It's very difficult, particularly in the world that I live in, for anyone to talk about God. It just doesn't come up. Very few people do it. We just do not live in a godly world anymore. It's just sad and unfortunate. But for those who follow God's word, the end is worth it. So Revelation 21:1-4 says, "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. There was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of the heaven from God, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, 'Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them, and they will be his people. And God himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no longer any more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain, for the old things have passed away.'" The only evolution that's worth